father and got the blessing of the elder son. Now, here we can't defend him. He didn't buy it. It seems that he stole it. But who told Jacob to steal that blessing? It was his mother. And who told his mother? It was God. And ultimately, Jacob, through that blessing, restored many things throughout his life, fleeing from his brother's anger, struggling in the distant land of Haran, restoring wealth, blessing, family, and honor, and at the end of his life, he turned and gave it all back to his brother. So his motive was a God-centered motive. Let's look at the providential significance. Jacob made the indemnity condition to restore the position of Abel for the foundation of substance in the following manner. First, Jacob fulfilled the condition of victory to restore on the individual level the birthright of the eldest son when he gained the birthright from his brother and later received the blessing from Isaac. You can see that this symbolically represented the fulfillment of the first blessing, to become a true son or daughter of God. But now his brother was angry. The Bible tells us that Rebekah said to Jacob, Esau comforts himself by planning to kill you. So flee to my brother Laban in the far land of Haran, which Jacob does. So secondly, Jacob flees to Haran, representing the satanic world where he endures suffering and struggle. His uncle treats him shabbily, puts him in the barn sleeping with animals like a servant of servant. But Jacob works hard and brings blessing and success to the family. So his uncle puts him in the position of the head of the servants. He's gone from servant of servant to servant. But then he works so hard and does so well, and his heart is so true that his uncle gives him not one but two of his daughters in marriage. There's a deep story there, but no time in this introductory presentation to go into that level of detail. So in this way, Jacob goes to the position of adopted son, and finally he gains all the inheritance of his uncle as a true son. He triumphs over Laban in his fight to restore the birthright. He gains family and wealth as his due inheritance. And then he turns and doesn't run from his brother, but goes back to Canaan to meet Esau. Now Esau is waiting with 400 men for the purpose of killing his brother when he sees him. But on the way, third, Jacob triumphs in wrestling with an angel, subjugating the creation, restoring dominion, the third blessing. He was the first fallen man to restore dominion over the angels symbolically through this struggle. Thereupon, he was given the name Israel, he who triumphs, the victor, because through his faith he was victorious. Now, on this foundation, in this way, Jacob restored through indemnity the position of Abel. After these victories, he returns to Canaan, the land of the promised blessing, and wins the heart of his brother. When Jacob comes over the hill, he sends first in front of his brother and his 400 soldiers, his army of 400. Jacob sends gifts, one after the other. Then he sends his servants who bow low. His wives and children come before him, and Jacob bows low into the dirt and says, "Seeing your face is like seeing the face of God." Esau's heart is melted. His resentment overcome, and they embrace. When Esau opened his arms and affectionately welcomed Jacob's return to Canaan, they fulfilled the indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature. Esau's resentment melted away. Thus, they restored united brothers or good children. They made the foundation to restore parents, and the Messiah can come. This victory, restored through indemnity, in one family, horizontally, the long vertical course of history in which God had been working to restore the foundation of substance. Jacob thus set the pattern, laid the groundwork for the model course that Moses, Jesus, and all humanity would walk to bring Satan into submission. In conclusion, and to summarize, at last the foundation for the Messiah was established in Isaac's family. However, by Abraham's time, fallen people had already built up satanic nations, idol worship, corruption, and evil that surrounded this small patriarchal family of Abraham. These nations could easily overpower Abraham's family. Therefore, this family-level foundation for the Messiah was not enough. The Messiah could not have safely come if only a family received and believed in him. They would be crushed by Egypt and Mesopotamia and the other nations that were worldly and distant from God. So a foundation of a sovereign state was needed. God needed to expand the foundation to a national level to cope with the nations of the satanic world. And that's precisely what took place. Now, a course of indemnity was required. It had been placed upon Abraham's descendants 400 years as slaves due to his mistake in his symbolic offering. So, through Joseph, Jacob's descendants, Abraham's descendants, went through 400 years as slaves in Egypt. But despite their suffering, they would flourish. They multiplied rapidly and consolidate as a people. And as a people, they would be liberated by Moses, return to Canaan, and build a nation to prepare for the coming of the Messiah, a national foundation for the Messiah. So when we look back at all of these providential families, each of them had the same mission. The mission was to establish the foundation for the Messiah to come. God was not waiting to send the Messiah in his good time. The direction of history is determined by human portion of responsibility. When the foundation was laid, the Messiah would have come at that time. So the entire Old Testament history testifies to this process of restoring the vertical condition, faith in God, and the horizontal condition of goodness in heart, substantially overcoming our fallen nature and making oneness with our brother. So let's take a look at what Jesus said. Jesus said that on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets, meaning the entire Old Testament. The first commandment, he said, is to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This represents the foundation of faith, restoring the right relationship with God as the center of our lives. But Jesus said the second commandment is like the first, and it's to love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, when we can make oneness with our neighbor, centered on our love for God, that's the foundation of faith and substance for each of us. For this reason, the Bible says, what good does it say to say I love God whom we cannot see if I can't love the person next to me whom I can see? So we can draw profound lessons out of these stories of the Old Testament, which could never be understood before, but now, based on the wisdom and the insight of the divine principle, we can see more clearly and draw the lessons for our lives. Finally, we understand that the foundation for this nation of Israel was the family of Abraham, which accomplished in 3 generations, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For this reason, when the Jewish people refer to their ancestors and their God, they call God the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Well, we've covered a lot of territory. I appreciate your time and your attention. We have much more to do in the presentations to come. Thank you very much.